And it all holds true for where we are today. The market doesn't really change. The market conditions change, but the market doesn't change. We still have plenty of people who own a home. We have plenty of people who want to own a home that don't own a home. And what we have to do is wrap our heads around the fact that just because we're being told by the media, or we're being told by the government, or wherever we're being told it, that there's a slowdown, it doesn't mean there is. And so we're going to kind of touch a little bit on that today, because this is also a mindset for all of us. You'll see on my first slide, we'll just jump right in. It says mastering your listing presentation, and presentation is marked off. Well, first of all, that's because my thought process here is that you never go on a listing presentation, because a presentation is like a performance, correct? We really need to approach these listings as appointments or interviews. We're interviewing for a job. And when we approach it that way, we're a little bit more respectful of who we're meeting with. It's going to become a little less about us and more about them. And when we focus more on them, we're connecting on a really great level, and we're more apt to get that listing. So we're going to talk about these things today, and how you can shift your mindset and shift some of the things that you're doing so that it becomes more like an interview and less like it's all about you and a presentation. So we're jumping in. Again, let's just talk from the bucket of plenty. Because when you don't have a lot of listings, you operate from a point of desperation. So the more prospects you have, the more listings you will get. The key to being a good presenter in a listing presentation is to have a pipeline full of qualified prospects that you're going to need to make appointments with and go and interview for. Because in real estate, the power is in the pipeline. When you have a pipeline full of prospects, it's going to be very straightforward, and you'll be more able to be honest with people. You're going to choose. You're interviewing them, but you are also being interviewed. You're being interviewed both ways, right? So they're interviewing you for the job, but you're interviewing them too. Do you want to work with these people? And when you don't have a lot of prospects, you operate from more desperate. So you want to make sure that you're constantly prospecting. How do we do this? Well, it's our pipeline. Your CRM and yours is a must. You have to have a good CRM. Now, when you talk about a CRM, you don't have to go out and spend a lot of money on a software program, but you better have spreadsheets of who you sold to, where you sold to, and the CMA program that you guys are doing is fabulous. I was chatting with Mary a little bit before when we got on, and one of the things that I did when there was a slower market is I took everybody that I had sold a property to, and I took their little neighborhood, and I sent out CMAs to all of them to try to generate more in my pipeline so that I wasn't going to be operating from a desperate position. We don't want to focus on, is the market good or is the market bad? And so Mike Ferry, I did a lot of training through Mike Ferry's program, and he always said this: it is not about the market conditions. It's about what are we doing to go out and generate more business. Market will up, market will go down. That's not what we need to concern ourselves with. And to that point, I looked up some of his realtors that are doing actual coaching with Mike Ferry this year. And last month in August, Scott Tucker, in a bad market, took 15 listings. Jeff LaRue took 11. Milton James took 14. Natasha took 12. Darren Brothers took 11. Jim Brim took 14. And our big winner was Dan Mum, who took 22 listings. And this is across the nation. So there was a couple here in Florida, a couple obviously out in California. There were some in the Midwest, but I tried to include some of them across the whole nation to kind of give you guys an understanding. Business is being done. Listings are being taken. And what we have to do is wrap our heads around the fact that we're not going to listen to the media anymore. We're going to go out, we're going to put our heads down, and we're going to have our prospecting plan. So to that end, your daily schedule should be including at least 75% of your time prospecting. Now you're saying, oh my gosh, I just started out, or I don't have a CRM that's, I only have maybe 20 or 25 or 50 people in my CRM. If I spend 75% of my day every day, they're going to be like, can you stop calling me, please? I'm not talking about just using your CRM to prospect. When you go to the grocery store, how many of us are doing this with our phones, and we're putting our heads down and we're doing our business, and we're not opening our eyes to the fact that there are hundreds of people in the store with us, and some of them have a home to sell. Some of them are looking for a home to buy. We will not know unless we engage. You go to church, same thing. I always say, don't be that secret agent. Go out, talk about what you do, ask them what they do. That's, enter into conversations. Hey, see that you have, do you like romaine lettuce? Do you like that brand in your cart? Enter into a conversation. That's the only way you're going to meet people and start getting more and more people in your pipeline. You need to start doing production-based activities. Again, this CMA program is great. It's a production-based activity. So when you do that, you've got to also add in patience. And this is another thing that we don't do so well in America. We're getting a little bit of, we wanted it yesterday, and yesterday was even too late. We kind of would like it in the last 5 minutes. What we have to understand is that when we sow the seeds, our expectation of immediate rewards on these prospecting things that we're doing, it takes time. It takes a lot of watering. Like I think of you water your seeds, you've got to let them grow, but you have to be consistent with that, because otherwise they're going to shrivel up and die. So again, discipline paired with patience is going to give us what? More prospects, which is going to give us what? More listings. And that's what we're going to hear to talk about is when you get those listings, how do you approach your listing presentation? So what you need to do when you approach a listing appointment or an interview is come at it from a place of service. Okay, the thing that causes the most resistance in someone signing with you or in any sales is what? Sales pressure. None of us want to be pressured. We are all kind of like, you know what, tell us what you got, and then let us make some decisions. Give us some space. And I always say in a listing appointment or in a listing interview, you've got to allow people to process what it is that you're discussing. You've got to allow them to process what you're saying and what you're presenting to them. You know this like the back of your hand because you've been working with all of this intimately, all this knowledge, being in real estate, you know things. However, what you've got to do is allow space. Don't try to always talk. Let them have their space to form some questions. Don't pressure them. Instead, ask more leading questions like, what is it that you need? It's the fundamental question that we need to address when we're doing a listing interview. What are their objections for the move out of the house? And they will always have them, right? So no matter how much they want to sell their home or sell their house, move to something new, there will always be objections. Most of the time it's going to be on price. If I don't get this price, I'm not going to be able to get the house that I want, right? Or it could be I'm moving out of a school district, or I like my neighborhood. There's always something that is kind of keying and making them want to stay where they are. So we've got to find that and then tailor our listing interview around that objection so that it makes them more comfortable and more willing to treat this as a commodity sale instead of a home sale. And we're going to talk a little bit about our word choices when we're in our interview with our sellers. So don't try to convince them. Don't try to convince them to work with you. You need to set yourself up as you're an expert in the field. This is what I do all day. When you go to the doctor isn't convincing you to use them. They could care less. They've got tons of patients, right? They are going to be skilled and they know what they're going to do. That's the approach that you need to have, this confidence of, listen, yeah, you're going to interview someone and someone might take this listing at a higher price just to buy the listing. Or they may lower their commission. But then what are you getting for your value? Are you using their expertise? Because I'm not ever going to do that. I'm going to tell you straight up, what is your home valued at? And this is the price that it costs to use me and the skill set that I have acquired. So when you're trying to convince people, you start talking about all the things that you're going to do for them, right? Well, you should use me because I'm going to put the listing on this website and that website, and I'm going to do this for you, and I'm going to do that for you. This is the beginning of the end. Don't sell them until they give you permission to tell them what you can do for them. And then they're going to tell you specifically, based on objections of what they like and what they don't like, what are some of the highlights of the things that you're going to do. You're not going to tell them everything. I always call it, you're not going to throw up on them with all of your knowledge and all of your resources. You're going to tailor it. And we're going to talk soon about how do we learn how to tailor our listing interview. We need to make sure we're assessing the seller willingness. Is the seller willing to help you get their house sold? The ideal client is going to be someone who is receptive to your knowledge. We just talked about that. Are you meeting with someone who is very resilient, or not resilient, but really not receptive? They're pushing back on everything that you're saying. They're challenging you on everything. You have to think in your mind, and again, if you have enough prospects, you can easily say this, is this someone that I really want to work with? Because if they're going to be a problem in this listing interview, they're going to be a problem all the way through. They're going to be this challenge person. And when you operate from the space of plenty and abundance, you get to make a choice on whether this is going to be a good fit for you. Also, you want to find someone who's going to be open to making changes. I tell the story about when my mom and my dad sold their home in Wisconsin, and I was selling real estate. And of course, they wanted the top realtor, so they called me to do an interview on listing their home, and they made it very clear it was an interview. They were interviewing other people, and I embraced that. I would love to go up against someone else because it's going to be night and day based on how I do this. So I walk to their home, I'm looking at all of it, and I say to my mother, well, Nancy, you have a lot of knickknacks and paddywhacks kind of all over, and you have a lot of pictures up and all this kind of stuff. I think in order to get your top price for your home, you need to limit all of this stuff and allow the buyer space to see their stuff in your house. And she was resistant at first. And I said, well, that's fine if you don't want to do that, but then I'm not going to list it at this price. We will list it at this price because people will not be able to get past what you have out. She ended up changing her mind, packed a lot of stuff away. We were able to list it at the high price and we got offers in right away. So you need to find someone who's willing to work with you, make the changes, make the suggestions that you have for them. They don't have to do all of them, but they have to have that willing spirit. Also, you want to find someone who is not going to have the, it's my way or the highway. You're going to list it at this. You're going to do these many open houses. You're going to send out flyers to this. If they start making demands, they're going to be that type of a person all the way through. Again, operating from abundance, you get the opportunity to decide, is this going to be a good fit for you? And finally, work with someone who's willing to let you help them, right? You're the expert. Remember this. Go into your listing interviews with confidence. You're the expert here. They don't sell homes every day. They don't meet with clients every day. They don't walk through properties, hundreds of properties every year. You do. You're the expert. Make sure that you constantly are letting them know this in subtle ways, right? I do this for a living. I've seen 3 of the homes in your neighborhood right around this area. When they come up for sale, I'm going through and doing preliminary showings for people. You're the expert, and work with people who meet this criteria. Let's talk about price, okay? Notice, first of all, how I have not been saying home. Through the presentation, or I've been trying not to say home. I've been saying house or property. It's very important when you're working with a seller that you start addressing their home as a house, as property, because it shifts their mindset to a warm, emotional connection. I want to hold on to this, to it's a commodity. It's something that needs to get sold so that you can move on to the next thing in your life. When you're working with buyers, you're obviously saying the opposite. You're saying, how do you feel in this home? Because you want that emotional connection. So when you choose your words, when you're talking to a potential seller or getting a listing appointment, something like that, you're always going to want to use the word house or your property. I like what you've done with your property. I am enjoying the upgrades that you've done to your house. Okay. It's very subtle, but it's very effective. And this will also help you when you tackle the big pricing issue, right? Price is king in real estate. Let there be no doubt in your mind. They're going to go through all these other things that they say are important, but the bottom line is always going to be price. It's the dominant reason that a home sale will sell or it will fail to sell. And that's the most important thing that you need to get across in your listing interview. Your presentation needs to accurately reflect the reality of the situation. Rather than focusing on your marketing, which is what a lot of realtors do, and it's wrong. They go in full bore. This is what I can do. This is how I market your home, blah, 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 blah. That's what they start with because they're afraid of addressing the elephant in the room, and that's price. I always went in and said, let's just address the elephant in the room first, and let's get this off the table. Let's talk price. Focus on the issues that really affect the sale of the home. Where is it located? Is it in the prime area of the neighborhood? Is it on a busy street? Is it on a cul-de-sac? How does it compare to the other properties that are currently listed or ones that have recently sold? What is their competition going to be? And the only way you're going to know competition is if you've been in a lot of the homes in the area and you can even draw comparisons. And that comes into the niche listings. So when you do niche listing, which is one of the things that I did in Wisconsin, is you knew neighborhoods because anytime there was a listing that came up in that neighborhood, you went in and did a walkthrough of it. You went and previewed it. You went and saw what does that house have, so that when a listing came up in that neighborhood that you were going after, you can say, oh yeah, I've been in that house. They had marble. Oh yeah, I've been in that house. They updated their bathrooms. You gotta know the competition inside and out. I advocate strongly, roll up your sleeves, get down to that business of pricing sooner rather than later, because you're going to come to that common ground. And when they connect with you on pricing, they're not even really going to care what you're going to do to market it, because you've already got that common denominator of, okay, I've already committed to this type of a price. If they are going to be so resistant to what you are saying and you're giving a price range and they are so out of whack, then you need to make a decision at that point of, okay, we could go ahead and list your property at this price. However, if we do this, after so many showings or after so much time, we will reduce it, and you need to agree to reduce it to the price that I wanted to do initially. Okay, so you can give them, you can do a little give and take. Now, if they refuse to do that, politely excuse yourself and move on to your next prospect, because they're going to be a problem all the way. So let's get into some practical tips for you guys. Okay. This is what a great pre-listing package is. Now, a pre-listing package is something that needs to be sent in advance of the interview appointment, or you can drop it off and have them go through it and make sure that they understand some of the things that you're looking for prior to coming and doing the interview. Now, that's two reasons you're doing that. First of all, it shows, number one, that you care about the fact that this is an interview. And number two, you're trying to establish more of a commonality with them or some type of a relationship. No other listing agent is doing this. Most likely they're setting an appointment, and the very first time that someone sees them is at the actual listing appointment. So when you prepare as if it was an interview, if you were doing an interview, you'd be sending your resume, right? So these are things that you're going to send ahead of time. You're going to send this introductory letter thanking them for this opportunity to interview for the job of listing their home. Those are key words. The power is for them. This is all about them. But you are also going to put in a one-page flyer that talks about your marketing plan, your experience, those types of things. So it's a one page, not a lot about you, more about them. And lastly, you really do need to include something that's about your company, okay? The depth and the breadth of your company. So this is your pre-listing package that you can mail or drop off. I always dropped it off. They didn't have to be home if they were not home. I always left them a message letting them know that I left a pre-listing package for them to peruse prior to our appointment and our interview. I put it in a nice colorful envelope. Now, if I did have to mail it, I never mailed it. I always FedExed it, because who doesn't think that they're special when they get a FedEx package? Now, did it cost me more money? Yes. $20 was not a lot to spend if I knew that I was going to be getting a commission for a listing. And again, it's all about making sure that I get the listing and I get the commission at the end. So pre-listing package goes out before the appointment. In here, in this pre-listing package, you should also be including the following things. It's a checklist for them. Please be aware that when we meet, we are going to need to discuss your financial information on any loans that you have on your property or on your house. That would include any first mortgages, second mortgages. Make sure you list home equity lines of credit, because they sometimes conveniently forget that these attach to the homes, right? Any privately held mortgage. I don't know if it's in as much in here as it is over in Melbourne, but a lot of people put the solar panels on the home. That has also attached, those liens attached to the house and need to get paid off. They don't go with them. They don't get to keep paying on something that's attached to the home. So again, things like that need to be told to them that we're going to need to discuss this. We need to have a copy. If you don't have any mortgages, great, that's wonderful. But I will like to see satisfaction of the payoffs that you received from the bank. A copy of your deed. I'd like to see that when we come. Top copy of your title policy so that we can possibly get you reissue credit if you've owned the home for 3 years or less. Copy of your utility bills for the year, okay? Inevitably, people, especially if they're moving from out of town, they're going to want to know what the utility bills are like. So you are going to be prepared ahead of time. I will tell you, other realtors are not doing things like this. They are going in full bore on who they are, what they can do, all this other stuff. When you focus back on them, your property, your house, your utility bills, you're showing a competency of these are the things that we're going to need to have in place in order to get your house sold. Current survey, HOA information, any other special situations that might affect the sale, or is it in a trust, or are there other considerations that we need to know? So if you make a list, it just gets their wheels thinking. And if you are in competition, they're going to be looking at that and going, okay, well, I didn't get anything like this from the other realtor. So you're already ahead of the game. You're striking blood first. The other thing that I highly recommend is do a quick phone interview prior to your actual interview at the house if you have time. This is really important because it will help you determine motivation. It'll help you let them know that you're serious about this job, okay, and this interview. And it shows that you're prepared. And it also is, the most important is that it allows you the opportunity to get to know what's going to be important to them prior to meeting them face to face. So some of these questions that you're going to ask on the phone interview would be, how did you hear of me? Or did someone refer you? It's always good to know, because if someone referred you, or if it's someone that you need to go and thank, make sure you go and thank people for referrals. That's how you're going to get more referrals. Second question, why are you looking to sell? This is going to determine their motivation, right? So, oh, well, we're outgrowing the house. We see other people buying houses. We're thinking we want to buy a house. That's going to be wishy-washy. But hey, I took another job in another state and I have to be there by the end of October. It's going to tell me that they're going to be a little bit more flexible on price and a little bit more motivated to look at offers that come in. So again, we want to make sure that we're asking what is their motivation without asking it. So why are you looking to sell? How about this? Is there anyone else that you're interviewing for this job, right? If so, who are they? And may I ask who and when this is happening? You always want to try to be last in at an interview for a listing presentation, because you don't want to have them comparing you with someone new. You want them to be comparing the other person to what you're saying. Plus, by the time they get to you, they might just be done with the whole thing and they want to just sign and just let's get on and move on with everything. And you're going to so outshine it because of your pre-listing package, your phone interview, all of that kind of stuff. You're just going to be in the driver's seat. So this is an important question. If they don't want to share who, most times they will share when. Okay. And you always want to, again, try to get the appointment at the end. Is it possible to have all the legal owners present at the time of this listing interview? Okay. And if not, when's going to be a good time to make sure everyone is there? If your husband travels, if you travel, can we join in on a Zoom call? Is there something that we can do to make sure that all the people who have legal interest in this property and will need to sign the listing agreement are going to be present for our interview together? Where are you moving to? This is an important question, because don't leave money on the table. Do they have a realtor helping them with that? If they're moving across town, they may already have a realtor, but if they already have a realtor, why are they not interviewing that realtor to sell their home? So if they've already contacted you to sell the home, there's a really good chance they're going to need your assistance in buying a home. However, if they are not moving locally and they're moving out of state or out of the area, you also have an opportunity to get a referral fee. So again, don't leave this money on the table. Ask the questions. Where are you moving to? Do you already have someone who's helping you with this journey? Okay, other questions. When do you need to sell by? Great, again, question to figure out their motivation. How soon do you need to move? We've all come across these homeowners that I call them perpetual listing people. Like they go from, you'll see a sign for a Remax, then you'll see a sign for a Keller Williams, then you'll see a sign for a Charles Rutenberg, you'll see a sign for someone else. And it's like it's a perpetual listing because they're not motivated. They don't really need to sell. They're just waiting, or they're just lonely. So then they just interview everybody. Make sure that you know what their motivation is. And one of their ways to do that is, hey, when do you need to sell your home by? What's your drop down deadline? That also will tell you if they already have a house, right? What price do you think is going to be fair? What price did you have in mind? They all have a price in mind. Don't let them tell you that they don't. They do. They've been talking to neighbors. They've been looking stuff up. They know, they can go on Zillow. They know what things are being listed at. They have a price in mind. So ask again, get it out on the open. We know that you're looking to sell, someone's looking to buy. It's going to be about price. A lot of it's going to be about price. What did you have in mind? Ask the question. Also, are they going to be looking to do a 1031 exchange? Okay, so sometimes people are looking to do a 1031 exchange. They don't tell you that up front. That's a whole nother kind of kettle of worms and things that we've got to try to coordinate. So it's good for you to know that up front. And also, if you're dealing with an international seller, does FIRPTA apply? So again, questions to ask. The last thing is you want to ask them, what's the most important thing to you when you hire a realtor? You know, it might be one thing, it might be two things, but don't ask for a bunch. Just say, what's the most one or two things that is the most important to you when you hire a realtor? Now, again, you're using these words, hire, interview. The choice is yours, that you're just kind of like letting them know that. And plus, it's a lot more, it's not emotional, right? This is a business transaction. You're selling a house. It's a commodity. It's about the price. What's most important to you when you hire somebody? And then you start talking about the property. Now, the questions you're going to ask about the property are things that you probably are already going to know, or you can look up and find out. But again, it's getting them to talk about them. This is something that you can do at prior in your interview on the phone, or it's something that you can do at the listing interview itself. But you want to find out from them, what is their perspective on how many square feet do they think they have? Okay, because sometimes they think they've got a lot more square footage and they're counting the lanai, or they're counting things that they really can't. And again, you need to know that so that it becomes a part of your pricing, right? So if they think that that's included in square footage, you have to show them it's not. And so when it's not included, we can't go quite as high as you think that you might have been thinking of. Also specifics: bedrooms, bathrooms, garage, pool. How old is their pool? What does their pool look like? How many bedrooms do they think? Sometimes they come in a bedroom and it's not really truly a bedroom. They can't use it as a bedroom. So good things to kind of know how they're perceiving their house. Please find out the age of all the mechanicals. You're going to need to know it anyway. When you get a new buyer that comes in, they're all going to want to know, what is the age of the roof? What's the age of the mechanicals? What are the kitchen appliance ages? All of this stuff you're going to need to know anyway. Ask it up front. It makes it feel more like you care about what it is that you're selling. And then also, are there any other special amenities? And this kind of gives us a clue on their emotional attachment to the house. So if they're very, very proud of this kitchen remodel, or they're very, very proud of the pool they put in, you'll know what the attachment is. So you'll be able to help them unattach from that. And then you always want to ask about them. Number one, how do you like to be communicated with? Would you prefer texts? Do you prefer phone calls? Do you prefer emails? Do you prefer a text and an email follow-up? How do you want me to communicate with you? And then make sure that you make a note of it. And even if it's not your preferred thing, and let's just say, like, for me, I'm not a phone person. I would prefer texting or emailing, because then I have it in written form. I can kind of go back to it and process it. But there are some people that only want the phone. Okay, we'll do the phone. But I also follow that up with an email with my understanding of the phone conversation. So, but go to their first prior mode of communication, find out what they want first, okay? Also, how often do they expect communication once I list your home? Again, think about the way we phrase these questions. Once I list your home, you're already kind of like throwing out, okay, it's going to happen. So once it happens, how often are you wanting me to call? My protocol is once a week. I check in with you. I give you what I call a good news update. I let you know what's happened. Do you expect a communication after every showing, or would you prefer me only to communicate with you once we get an offer, or at the end of the week and I can go through all the showings with you? What do you prefer? What's your expectation? We want to try to meet that. Do you have any pets that are going to need special consideration? And this is a great time to talk about dogs and kitty cats and people chasing cats down the street because they got loose. And what do you do with the dog that's barking and all of this kind of stuff? So again, telling them about, asking about them, and then addressing some things that might come up during a listing. And are there going to be any times that are not going to be good for showings? I always put my little baby down for a nap between 10 o'clock and 12 o'clock. So I cannot have any showings between 10 a.m. and 12. Okay, let's know that up front. When I take your listing, what are times that are not going to be good for showings? And we'll make sure that gets honored if at all possible. Because remember that during the presentation and the interview, this is not about you. It is about them. And one of the other things is to stop worrying about what you do and how you say things and stay focused on what they're saying. That's the easiest thing. Like if you start getting nervous in a listing presentation, you start asking them about them and listen to what it is that they're saying. Your nerves will go away because it's going to be more about what's important to them. How are they feeling? Key thing to keep in mind is your seller has the answers to the questions that you need to know. And unless you ask the right questions, you're not going to know the answers to your questions. So ask the right questions. Ask them how they're feeling about the sale of their house. Are they excited to be moving? What's their time frame? Make sure that you're asking the right questions to get the right answers back and find out what's important to them. Being prepared ahead of time. Confidence, sorry, guys. Being prepared ahead of time. Confidence comes from being prepared. Now, this is the homework you're going to do behind the scenes before you go to the listing appointment. You are going to drive past the home during daylight hours and assess the physical condition of the house, right? Because it can look like one thing on paper, and when you go past, it could be run down, it can be dirty. You need to make suggestions on landscaping. You need to make suggestions on cleaning up the soffits. You need to make suggestions on maybe painting, whatever it is, but a physical assessment. Take a photo of the outside of the home and create a flyer or a marketing piece that you take with you to the appointment saying, this is your home, and this is what I've written about your home based on the things that we've already talked about. I'm sorry, you don't say home, you say house. Based on what we've already talked about, okay? Use photos of their home in the CMA that you're presenting. This is great. It shows that you were interested enough to do background information. People love it when you talk about them and about what they have. So look at all of that and try to get as much of the photos in as you possibly can. Look up previous selling prices. If they bought it 3 years ago, and we all know that everything has appreciated, but if they bought it 3 years ago for 185, and when you ask them what their expectation is, they want to sell it for 350, you're going to have a pricing objection on your hand. These are things that you want to know. What was the previous selling price? How long ago was it? And a lot of this you find in public records to find out even if there's a mortgage, an existing mortgage. Include price per square foot with your comparisons if you feel like they are including square footage that is not included in the home. So if they are adding additional square footage, you're going to want to do a price per square foot comparison. And then know what price that you're going to be comfortable with. Because if you don't know what price it is that you are comfortable listing it at, now you can't have that meaningful conversation about price early on. And remember, when I told you earlier about, okay, they want to list it at 375 and you think the fair market value or what you really could do was about 350 or 360, you can tell them, sure, fine. Okay, let's get off the price for a second. Let's go ahead. We'll list it at 375. But after 5 showings or after 2 weeks of no showings, we will have an understanding of what the market is telling us your home is worth. And it's probably not worth the 375. It's going to be more worth the 360 where I want to list it. So, we have to have that in our agreement ahead of time. Okay. All right. Be ready for their questions. They're going to have questions for you too. So some of the common questions you're going to get are you a full-time realtor? Okay. If you're not a full-time realtor, that's okay, but you better have an answer for what does that mean, right? So are you a full-time realtor? Yes, I am dedicated to my profession. Okay, that's it. That's all you'd have to really say. Are you a full-time realtor? Yes, when I have a listing, when I have buyers, I am fully engaged with them. So you're not really addressing if you're a full-time realtor working 24/7, but you are addressing, are you all in? Then that's really what they want to know. Are you all in? If I call you, will you be available? So in your answer, this is the place that you have to brag. List your designations, your awards, your experience, how long you've had your license. And that's another question that they're going to ask you. How long have you been in real estate? Now, again, if you're new to real estate, talk about real estate in general. Okay. So perhaps you've been around real estate, or if you are new to real estate, you can even say, I am newer to real estate. However, I'm being mentored by my broker at Remax, or I'm being mentored by so-and-so. Or how long have you been in real estate? You know, I haven't been in real estate very long. However, I have been taking the initiative and learning about neighborhoods. So I go to pre-list showings all over your neighborhood. And also I've done CMAs for a lot of these area homes so that I get a better idea of what your home is going to be worth. Again, did you see the subtle change? It's off of me and it's back on them. It's off of me and back on them. That's what you're always trying to do. Another question that's going to come up. Have you sold any other properties in my area? This is the topic. Again, talk about previewing other homes in the area that you've shown. I've been in this home. I've been in that home. This is what that house has. I don't see it with your home. Get it back on them as fast as you can. This is a good place for you if you do have a niche of a neighborhood to show that off, right? Okay. Another question. Do you have specific marketing plan for my house? Why, yes, you do. Because did you not do a pre-listing package, right? Make it as detailed as you can dare to make it about their home. I don't have a marketing plan. This is a great time to say, I don't do generic marketing plans. I do individual customized marketing plans based on the listing and the interview that I have with you as a seller. Because everybody wants their home marketed different. Every property needs to have their home marketed differently. So it's not a one size fits all with me. And yes, you will have a specific marketing plan tailored for you. So that's a great answer to that question. What financial resources do you have? If I have a buyer that has a financial challenge, do you have people in your network that you can go to? And if you don't, so here's my thing to you. If you don't, you need to. If you don't have a lender that you work with that does FHA, if you don't have a lender that does VA, if you don't have a lender that does financially challenged low credit scores, you've got to find lenders. And it might not be one that does a one size fits all. You might have one for VA, you might have one for FHA, you might have one for private financing. But you've got to have your team. You've got to have your core people around you so that if these things come up, you've got a way to address them. And they're going to ask if you have any recommendations, or this is a great time for you to have letters of recommendation from past clients. And make sure that you get permission that if these people want to call them, they can. They're never going to. But I always said, yeah, please feel free to call them. They never do, but they want to know that they could, right? And you can never have too many of these letters and these recommendations. Keep that current list available at all times. If someone says to you, this was the best experience I had, I'm so glad we chose you as a realtor, you say to them, gosh, could I use that and put you down as a list of recommended people, prior clients that have enjoyed working with me? Sure, you could put my name down. You don't even need to include the quote. Just put their name down. Satisfied clients that I've worked with. And start now, especially if you're new in the business, that's another great way to, when they say, how long have you been in real estate? You know, I've only been in real estate for, let's just say 6 months, but my gosh, this is a list of my clients that I've worked with that would use me again or have referred me to work with people. It shows that, okay, I'm on top of things. I'm in this for a living. Now, when you go to your listing interview, these are the things you're going to want to notice. You're going to want to notice, what do the closets look like? Because you can tell a lot about, are the sellers telling you the truth or are they fudging things, correct? And surprise, sellers sometimes lie to us or they don't tell us everything, and buyers do the same thing. But it's our opportunity when we're walking through a house to find out, okay, what is it that maybe they're not telling me? Closets are a great thing. Notice what's in closets. If you're seeing one set of clothes for the men and there are no women's clothes, and yet they're married, You know, you might be having a separation or divorce situation. You need to ask, okay, I'm going to bring up kind of a sensitive subject. I'm noticing one set of clothes. Are you guys going through a separation? Is the divorce been finalized? You need to be prepared to sell the house, and you can't have secrets if you're selling the house. Another thing to look at is pictures. Pictures tell us a lot. Pictures will tell us, okay, so like if you see this picture, and it's the mom or the grandfather and the grandmother are selling the property, but the grandfather looks like he's been an angel and being taken up to heaven, and she's the only one meeting with you. You may know that there's been a death, right? So if he's still on title, it hasn't gone through probate, we may have some situation that we've got to dig in a little bit further. So good time to set expectations. Okay, has it gone through probate yet? Do you have the final, the final probate done? And also walk the property with your eyes wide open. Make sure that you're looking at pools, landscaping, fences, any type of other things that maybe are in addition to the house, because you want to ask the questions of, did you buy the property with the pool or did you add the pool? My, that's a pretty pool. When was it added? Oh, you bought it with the property? Okay, so now you know that there's not going to be a problem with pool or surveys or encroachments or anything like that. Same thing with fences. These are questions that you're going to want to know. Also for permitting, right? So age of roof. Oh, we just had the roof, redone last year. Okay, great. So do you have the notice of termination for the notice of commencement for that work, and the permit's been closed out? Those types of things. Oh, you just remodeled your kitchen. Was there any plumbing work that was done? Was there any electrical work that was done? Any open permits that we might need to be concerned about? So again, things to notice, and take your time. When I went through homes or houses, I made a list, right, of things that I noted in rooms, so that at the end of the tour, when we're sitting at the kitchen table or whatever, I could pull out my list and say, okay, like, hey, I noticed in your master bedroom, when we opened up the sliding door, it didn't slide real well. Is that something that you're thinking you're going to attend to and make sure that it slides real well? Or is that something that, if I get an objection, I'm just going to know that it is what it is, right? So those are things, and you're bringing things to their attention. Hey, I'm noticing this. Hey, I'm noticing that. You've got a lot of knickknacks and paddywhacks all over the place. Of course, you can say that to your mother like that, probably not to a seller that you're trying to get a listing, but you are going to want to address all of their, I called it crap, right? Box this stuff up. Let the buyer see your house. So again, the walkthrough on an appointment is very, very important. It's one of the most important things that you're going to do. And so I usually did that prior to anything else I did. I end with this, but I started with it in my listing interview. Show me your home. Show me your home. Give me a tour of your home. And I took copious notes. So then when we were sitting down, I was able to deal with the price right away. Okay. You had said that you thought this was a fair price. However, when we were walking through the home, when we were walking through your house, I noticed these things. So it may affect the price. Let's have a talk about your price. So again, setting it up, making sure you're setting it up correctly, getting them involved, making it all about them. Those are the key components for a really good listing. And make sure that you do all that homework ahead of time. And finally, if the appointment goes well, you feel you made a connection, you want to work with them, all the boxes are checking, ask for the listing. There are so many times that I talk to realtors, they're like, oh yeah, I felt really good, and everything felt real good. Okay, so where's your listing contract? Oh, they said they wanted to think about it. No, they don't really want to think about it. They really want you to ask the question, but you're not asking the question. So it appears as if you don't really want their listing. So an easy way to do this, and again, because we're not trying to close them, we're trying to achieve a good interview listing, is a great way to say it is, I really feel like I could market and sell your house correctly. And I really feel that you're motivated and my motivation match, and they parallel really well. And so I'm wondering, are we at a situation here where we shouldn't just sign the paperwork and let's move on with it? Let's get you moved and let's get you on to the next part of your journey. Easy way to say it, easy way to soft sell it, soft pedal it, but you got to ask the question, figure out how you say it, and practice on someone, like, hey, this is how I'd like to say it. How does it come across to you? Okay. Now, if you do leave the presentation or the interview and you're not getting the listing right there, they do want to think about it. They want to sleep overnight. Regardless of that, you are going to be sending a follow-up email, a follow-up text, and then ultimately that handwritten thank you note. And I don't care that if you left and they said, well, we'll let you know tomorrow. And when you get home a couple hours later, you send out that thank you text, or based on the way they like to be communicated, you send out the email, you call them, hey, I just wanted to thank you again for the opportunity. Whichever way they want to be communicated with is how you're going to send this thank you. However, you are also, even if you take the listing, you are going to send a personal handwritten thank you note, because it just puts the frosting on the cake. I am a professional. I respect you. I respect your time, and I appreciate the fact that we got to interview. It's just puts that whole frosting. And so even if you don't get that, and they're not happy now with the realtor that they chose, maybe they'll refer you. Like, gosh, we should have chosen Shelly, but we didn't. Now maybe someone I know wants to sell their home. I'm going to refer Shelly. Okay, so follow-up is very, very important. And that's what I have for you all today. This is my contact information. You have my email, you have my phone. If you feel like you want to chat something out, or you want a little bit more specifics on anything, feel free to reach out. We'll arrange a time, like I said before. So that's what I had. Mary, is there any questions or anything?
I'm not seeing any questions at the moment. This presentation has been recorded. And Shelly, you did a fantastic job. I wanted to let you know that our good friend Casey Landron had texted me saying, it's awesome. You're awesome. So we so appreciate you. But I wanted to reiterate a couple of things. You had some really great content here. So I wanted to just really hit home some of the things that you had said. Communication. When you talked about communication and having a phone conversation, follow it up with the email so that you both are on the same page. That is so important. Yes. And it keeps everybody on the same page. And something that worked really well for me every time was when you're touring the home and you're taking notes, you'd be surprised. That is very impactful to the person who is showing you their home. It's like you're actually listening and engaging with them, not just having things go through your head.
And Mary, I could interrupt for just a second too. It's helpful for you for when you get the listing. Because there's a million things in your head and you're being distracted. And when you finally get back to the office and you're like, no, wait, did they have an office? And was it decorated funky, or was there?
Right.
You have all of that written down. So absolutely. It helps refresh what you've got too.
It absolutely does. And then as far as going into that presentation where, I want to list it up way up here price wise. We had Sadiq come on and he had a fantastic idea of, if you're going in, go in with find an expired in that neighborhood and show that why it expired, because it was overpriced. And then when it was relisted at the lower price, at the real price that it should have sold at. So I thought that was absolutely an amazing strategy, because I had never thought about that before.
Yeah.
And finally, when you talked about having your people and your partners, I just want all the people on here to know that everybody who is sponsoring this event, we are all here to be your business partners. We can help you with, even if it's not our specialty, we know people. We're all very connected. And if you need a roofer, or if you need a plumber, we have all these people in our pipeline. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. But I can't thank you enough. This was a great, great class.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot out of it, and I know that people are going to be rewatching this with all the great questions that you had in there. And I mean, make yourself a little cheat sheet to take on your listing appointment with all the questions on it, you know?
yeah.
Keeps
You
you
know,
on
and
track.
the fun thing is that when you're really in it to do listings, you'll have these packages all ready to go. You know,
Right.
I've always had 10 ready to go. My assistant had 10 ready to go. So all I had to do is grab and go,
Yeah.
and grab and send, or grab and drop off. And the tip there too about put it in a colorful envelope, make it stand out. That's really, I always did red or orange, or, you know, maybe even something for the season that we were in. Just to really set it off and make them see that something was dropped at their house.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got so many people saying great information, great class. Thank you so
Good.
much. Janice, did you want to say any reminders to everybody for on your part of the competition?
Actually, like I said earlier, I know there's a few people that are going to be getting their CMAs into me in bulk. Just keep an eye on it, make sure there's no duplicates. I don't want anybody to not have their 30 in. And Shelly, the information you gave out today, awesome. I actually got some text messages from a few people that were just like, this is fabulous.
Right.
Oh,
This is
well,
great. It's great information for the seasoned agents, but it's also good for the newer agents that don't
Right.
know how to get started in a different way. And I think it's great delivery.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Yes.
you.
And for me,
You're welcome.
I would just like to remind my people, please sign up for the event next week so that we have enough food for everybody. And congratulations to everybody who has already turned in their CMAs. And if you haven't, you've got today and tomorrow and Saturday. So get them in, because we want to have a really good turnout for the event next week. So, but thank you everybody for coming and attending, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, Shelly.
Happy listing.
Thank you so much, Shelly.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.